Hey patrons, it's Johannes from Noisebot, and today I've been working a bit with that Purr-Static plugin, the plugin that I came up with after a conversation with one of you guys, and the idea was to have a plugin that kind of gain stage for you. So you just put it in your mix project and set it to LUFS value, and just keep that track to the LUFS value. And the idea was that it would be dynamic in the sense that if you change something, the LUFS value will still be the same. But the problem with this kind of plugins is always that you can't have it move, because the intro of the guitar, if that's at minus 30 LUFS and the intense part is at minus 18, then how should the plugin know that the intro should be quieter? It will just normalize that to minus 18 if you set it to minus 18. So you need to have it as like a static target. And I'm actually going to make a plugin like that, where you set a point that this is the target point, and you should use the LUFS value as a target when you pass this point in the project. So then you can set that point for every track for the most intense part of that track, and as you play the project, every time the project goes over a point that you set, then it will normalize that track. The problem with that is that if you make a lot of changes on the track, the whole mix will change if you set, let's say that you want the vocal to be a bit louder, and you start to tweak things in the effect chain, and this plugin is lost in the chain, and it passes that point and says, well, this is now 3 decibels louder, and we'll just remove those 3 decibels. So then you have to go in and set another target if you want the vocal to be higher. So it kind of defeats the purpose of the plugin. I don't think it will save time, but I like to test it because it's a cool idea. It's cool in the sense that when you're happy with your levels, then a thing like this can keep the relationship between different elements in the mix constant, whatever you do to the mix, and that's a cool concept. Even though I think it will be hell to work with the plugin that constantly change the gain of stuff. But it's an interesting idea, so I will try that. However, the Purr-Static plugin that I released the alpha of, it was very rough. That has grown into something else. I added stuff, and I did something completely different. And this alpha 2 is actually pretty cool, but I use it for completely different things, and I actually use this while mastering now. So let's go to this screen. It's still ugly, it's still no graphics or anything, or pretty much just my old buttons that I made like 10 years ago and still using. We're gonna demo this with this track that has a very long intro. It's a 10-minute track, and the intro I think is like 3 minutes or something. And you can see on the waveform that it increases in level, and we want to even that out. And you can use a normal compressor to do that, but this thing is actually, it's better, but it's also problematic, and I'm gonna show you all that today. So bear with me. This will be, I will try to keep it short, but as usual when it comes to me and talking audio, I just talk a lot. I don't talk about other things really. If you met me, you will realize that I'm a pretty quiet guy, but when it comes to audio, I talk a lot. That's just the way it is. My brain is wired that way. It's not my fault. Complain. You can complain with my parents if you like. All right. So the changes that I made. Let's zoom into this. First off, I added. I don't think this control. Or was it there in Alpha 1? I don't remember. This is just a level control for the incoming audio, and I put it there because if you have a target at minus 16 and the incoming audio is at minus 8, then the plugin will have to work unnecessarily. It needs to attenuate the level a lot to reach that. So this is just, you can give it a little help. So if it's minus 8 and you want minus 16, then you can just attenuate in minus 8 and you're at minus 16, which makes this plugin work a little bit better or more predictable anyway. All right, so I added GC acceptance. This is the same level control that we had the last time, but I have a positive and a negative control with this. Last time it was just how much should the plugin be allowed to change the gain. It's just one control. Now you can set it so how much will it allow to boost the signal and how much will it allow to attenuate the signal. So those are two controls that you can set individually, which is pretty cool. I also added a silence control. This is a threshold for when the plugin should consider the signals as silence, and when it does that, it will just freeze the level change. I tried a lot of things. I tried to make it so when it's silence, it went back to no level change at all, but that didn't work that well. You kind of destroyed the good things with the compression when you did that. So now it's just freezes or slow down. It actually won't freeze, it will slow down. So it will start to move against 0, but it will take, I think it's 1.5 minutes before it reaches 0. So it's really slow. It's just hard. When you play music, it's like it doesn't move. But I did it that way because I wanted to eventually reach 0 if you leave the plugin alone for an hour or so. You're going to lunch and then you start to play the project from the beginning. Then it should have reached 0 again. I could have created something that recognized the start of the project or something and reset everything there, but I think this works well, so I kept it like this. I added a dry wet control because if you have set settings that this is just great, it's just that you can hear the compression a little bit too much, then you can back it off. I always think that a dry wet control is a great way to just back off the settings you've done a little bit. The target is still the same. You just set the LUFS target that you want the signal to try to reach with this control. Either click on that and write negative target. Of course, it goes to -6 for, yeah. Maybe I could change it so it can go higher, but I made it to -6 of, technical reasons. It was hard to make it work well if you had it too big of a span. So that's why. Let's put that to the original -18. The incoming and outcoming LUFS readouts, they are now both momentary and short term, so you have both values. I did that mostly for developing to see what happens with the numbers, but I left it in because, it can be cool. I realized that you can't see when it's at -300, like it is like right now. You can see the whole thing, but that's not a huge issue. All right, now we need to zoom away a little bit. There we go. The look ahead, it was there in the former version as well, but now I put a text so you understand what it is, because someone asked me why it added a lot of latency, and that's because the default position of look ahead was the max position, which adds 400 milliseconds of latency. So I put it there. It's 400 milliseconds because that's the momentary value that we are using for the gain change, and it's cool to know what's coming So the plugin sometimes, not in all situations, but sometimes it works better when you put it in 400 milliseconds, and so you have the read ahead of the signal. And I also added this is kind of an attack and release time, but I call it up and down because it sets the time it takes for when it detects a gain change, and it should adjust the boost or attenuation. Then you can decide how long will it take before it will reach that target. So you can set that up to 3 seconds. So this already works like a really slow compressor or expander, and this will slow it down even further, which makes it more usable. And I'm gonna demo how I'm been using this. I don't think it's good for vocals in podcasts because I haven't tried it really, but when I'm develop it or test it, I've done it with music, so that will tend to it will lean more for use with music at the moment. I've actually been thinking of making a compressor for podcasts for a long time because that's always an issue. Everyone has an issue with it. There are loudness compressors pretty much that have similar controls like this plugin. They are all very complicated to work with. So they have a steep learning curve. It's not something that person that's not used to working with audio and they recorded a podcast can use. If you're a musician, then you recognize all the controls and stuff. But it's very common that people that edit podcasts aren't really audio engineers. So they need something that is simple, and that's my idea, to make something that just do stuff automatically without any knowledge. And that's hard to do. It's like with this plugin. My idea was first I'm gonna keep this simple, but then you start to work with it and realize that you can't do this the simple way. You need a lot of settings to make it work as you want. All right, that's all the settings that are added in this version. Let's have a look how it behaves, and we're gonna just set some values to this. We can set this to minus. Let's use. I know that this measures minus 13.1 because it says so in the file up here. So I will set this to. Let's set it to minus 13.1. So the plugin will try to reach that number. And actually, let's max this out first and see how that works. Let's hit play and just see how that sounds. First, let's bypass it actually first. Let's bypass it like this and listen to how the intro sounds. The intro is so quiet, so probably my gate that is set to bypass the microphone if music is playing, it probably isn't working, so you probably have some kind of ping pong delay stuff going on in the video. I'm sorry about that. It's gonna be that way with this when it's quiet like that. All right, let's activate the plugin chain, and I actually put a limiter after as well, just to because this thing doesn't. If the peaks are going positive 10, it will deliver that. So I had to put a limiter on it. All right. yeah, I bypassed the chain there just for you to get a feel of that's a lot of gain. This is 10 decibels of boost in the intro because it's so quiet. And actually, let's render this so you can have a look. And we only need to render this first part of it. There we go. This is the resulting waveform. You can see that it has just, you know, done some crazy stuff to it. Completely destroyed it, really. And actually, let's render the whole track so you can start to see what the issue is. Why? I mean, this doesn't sound good. This is just too much of a gain change, but we're coming to how I'm using this later. So let's have a look at what it looks like when we render the whole thing. Because this will highlight the issues with this method as well, that you can't use it on the whole track for a couple of reasons. Actually, it doesn't look the way that I intended it, so let's see what went wrong. Oh, all right, that's why. Maybe I should do this. They are the opposite, so you have to go from 0 down to 10. I thought that was the logical thing when I created the negative gain change that's allowed. And now I set it to the wrong value. So it probably could be better if it goes from 0 to -10 from left to right instead. Well, it's not a big issue, but anyway. Now we need to render this again when we set that correctly. Override. So what the plugin is trying to do right now is to, oh sorry, I zoomed out. It's trying to make every part of the song hit the target -13.1. And it does that pretty successfully. The total loudness of the file will measure around that, often a little bit less, because it will gate out the intro and outro and a couple of places. But you can already see what the issue is. The intro kind of behaves the way we want, except that it's a bit too much, but it increased the level in the beginning, and it's so quiet here, so we wanted it a bit higher level. But then it pretty much just made everything the same level from about here to where the drums start, and that probably doesn't sound that good. It's just too much. And another thing here, when we go in here, up here, if you look at the waveform, I mean, it's pretty limited, but it's not loud, but it's you can see that it's limited. Then this part of the song that I mark about, oh sorry, this is the loudest part, and that's because there's a vocal in there that's a bit louder than the rest, which means that this section of the song measures louder, even if they look about the same loudness like the part here. And what the plugin does in that situation is that it will attenuate the level by a lot. So let's do it like this. We're gonna group these, and I mute one of them. So now when I'm muting, I'm switching between them so we can compare the level between these two. And I have bypassed the effect chain, so now we'll listen to the raw file. And let's normalize this to the same value as the one above, so we have them at the same level. Okay, that didn't work because I have grouped them. I'm sorry. So remove the loudness. There we go. And group them. Now I can switch between them. Okay. Let's listen to the beginning first here. The cool thing is that since it's so slow, it's pretty transparent, so you can't really hear the limiting or the compression like a normal compression. There's no pumping and stuff like that, but you just hear the gain change, and that's pretty cool. Let's listen when the drums start here. So I'm gonna set a little loop. So first let's listen to the original first. All right, and now we'll listen to the process. Even when we set the plugin to pretty crazy numbers, letting it boost and attenuate 10 decibels, so that's a span of 20 decibels. This compression in this situation works pretty well. I think it's a bit too much, of course, but I do this for demo purposes. We're gonna set it to more sane numbers later. But here's the thing: when we get into let's compare just a bit in when the drum starts. So let's listen about here. The level hasn't changed that much. There's actually things that I like in the original, and there's are things I like in the processed signal. I like part of the compression that this adds. You can see on the waveform that it's this is more even, which is probably better, but this moves around a little bit, which adds life, and I like the life that it adds, but maybe it takes away a little bit too much, and I can also hear that the original feels just a tiny bit louder. It's not much, but it's maybe enough to just say that the original is better right here. But let's do the intense part, and you can hear what's changed right there. Listen to the original first. Actually, I'm gonna toggle between them because it's more effectful. As you can hear, it's not working at all. It just kills the vibe of the music. It doesn't follow the natural intensity of the music. It just attenuates the level to a point where it's just, this sounds crap, really. I mean, it actually sounds exactly the same. It's just a level change, a gain change, but it's not musical at all. So we can't have that, and this is actually why I added the control that you can set. So let's just say that you're not allowed to attenuate the signal. You're just allowed to boost the signal. And then it starts to get way more useful. Actually, let's not set it to 10 decibels. Let's set it to 5 right now, which I also consider a bit too much. And we're going to render this. So here we go. And see how that works. So now it's not allowed to attenuate the signal. So if the algorithm feels that, well, I need to attenuate the signal, then it have a look at the knob where you said how much it's allowed to attenuate, and that says no, you're not allowed to attenuate. Then it just leaves the level as is, as long when it needs to attenuate. So you can still see that there's a small level change happening, and that's because there's probably small places in between the peaks here in the valleys that where it starts to change the level a little bit, and then there's a peak, then it says no, okay, now I can't touch the level. So it will fluctuate a little bit. Let's listen to these two, and let's do the same thing. I'm gonna mute one, we're grouping them, and now I can use this short command to toggle between them. And let's listen to the intro here. Let's fast forward a bit. So that compression works pretty well. Let's listen to this part. And actually, let's do this like fair again. So we're gonna normalize it. Not you. There we go. Actually, I'm gonna measure this just to see that we are working with this correct loudness. Yeah, 13.1. Okay. All right, group them again. Now I can toggle them back and forth. It's pretty transparent, even though we are boosting the signal by a lot. Actually, let's bypass that, activate this, and have a look at the plugin to see how much it boosts at this, particularly at this place here. It handles that very well. Yeah. So what I would do if I wanted to fix the intro, there's no point in using this at the most intense part later on in the song, really. I just want the level change in the beginning, and I don't want it to be 5 decibels. I'm looking closer to 3 decibels, and maybe I back off the wet dry a little bit, so we're down to maybe 2.5 2 decibels of gain change. then it starts to be better. Maybe I will slow down the effect a little bit as well. So let's put it on, yeah. Something like that. Just add 700 milliseconds of slowing down the movement a little bit. And now I will just put it on the intro. And in Reaper it's really simple. So you just do it like this. We add a little crossover between those sections there. We move the effect chain to the item and remove it from the channel. And now we have the effect chain on the item in the beginning instead, and we leave the rest alone. And let's see how this looks if I render it out. And the trick here is to find settings so that you actually compress the intro so it sounds natural, but a bit louder so it's easier to hear, and but still keeps the overall loudness. It doesn't need to be exact the same number, but about the same. You can see that there's a little gain boost exactly in the here, so I probably should have put this like that instead, but never mind. We're going to normalize this to 13.1, which means that we lost 0.24 decibels, which is acceptable. And I would probably tweak this a little bit further if I was using this for something real. Let's remove the effect, or actually let's do it like this. I want to keep the effect, but we bypass it and I keep it on the channel. This is for me, not for you guys. There we go. All right, let's mute one and group them and listen to the intro. That's closer to what I would prefer. I can see that right here it's a bit too limited, so I probably would have go in and set another target. So I would lower this to -15 maybe. That would probably work better. So it's a bit quieter. It doesn't need to have the same loudness as the intense parts of the song. It starts to sound very natural. It's still a little bit too much, but I think this is, I actually used this for this kind of situations already in mastering in real projects, and I find it really cool. I made a plugin like 10 years ago that was named Slow, and it got very popular and I liked it a lot. Unfortunately, that one made in 32-bit, and I wasn't able to move that code into 64-bit, so I forgot all about it, and now I can't open the project, so I can't see what I did. But that compressor was really cool, and this reminds me of that. So this is the new Slow, I guess. But it's called Purr-Static at the moment. This is Alpha 2. I will actually leave Alpha 1 as well in the post, so you can download this and use the other one if you want to. But I think this version is starts to the completely the last plugin that wasn't, it wasn't much to it was it was nothing to use really. This plugin now is something that you can use and actually can benefit from. In a lot of situations, I prefer this from other compression types. So, and I would put that on the intro, and I would find the settings that keep the integrity of the audio, but even it's out a little bit and boost the most silent part, and that's what what I would use it for in this situation. So that's Purr-Static Alpha 2, and I will continue experiment with this plugin. And so in meanwhile, have fun with this. We'll see you with the next plugin. Bye bye.